We're gonna we're gonna start by doing some chanting. We'll do a little more chanting, and then Anya's gonna do a really nice grounding, centering in your body meditation. And the first thing I'm going to invite whoever feels comfortable to do this. It will be a little more potent if you actually take your shoes off. And that's totally up to you. You don't have to. I'm going to right now because I forgot to do it before. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to chant a few times. We're going to chant basically 3 vowels that are E-I-O. And the E-I-O sound comes from Hermetics, which is Egyptian. And it's basically like saying Om, but it's a different version of it. So basically, you are singing the creative energy of the universe. That's what we're going to sing over and over again. And I think you'll feel the power of it. Then once we do that, we're going to chant some Sanskrit. And we're going to chant Ong, O-N-G, Namo, N-A-M-O, Gudu, which it looks like guru, but we're going to say Gudu, so that your tongue hits the roof of your mouth. It activates certain meridians in the body, and so it's helpful to do that. Gudu Dev. So it looks like Dev, but we're going to say it like your buddy Dave, okay? And then Namo again. And what that means is, so we're basically going to sing Om, but an Egyptian version of Om. Then we're going to sing Ong. And Ong is just like Om, except for instead of it being the creative energy of the universe unmanifested, it's manifested here and now. That's what Ong is. So it's like you're taking the creative energy of the universe and you're manifesting it here. Now, Mo simply means to honor. Okay, so we're honoring. And what are we honoring? We're honoring Guru Dev. And Guru Dev is your inner divinity. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about honoring your inner divinity, the creative energy of the universe manifesting now. So this is what we're going to chant before we do the meditation. And what we're going to do is I'll sing the E-I-O once through, and Rachel and Anya will help you with all of this stuff too. So if you're ever curious, like, what should I be singing? What should I be doing? Just watch them. And then I will, after we get to a certain place, we'll kind of stop. We'll have a little bit of silence, and then we will sing the Om Namo Guru Dev, which I'll sing again, and I'll help you sing it. We'll sing it 3 times, and then the meditation starts. Once the meditation's over, and you'll know it's over because you get to feel your toes and stuff and all that kind of thing, we will sing Om Namo Guru Dev again 3 times, but we will end on a chant, and I guess I'll sing it once and then you can sing it, but it's Sat Nam, and it looks like Sat, N-A-M. And Sat Nam means truth is my identity. So that's how we're going to end. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because Ong Namo Guru Dev Namo is kind of like an insurance policy that anything that happens after that is going to be great, and Sat Nam just reminds you of who you are. So that's why we're doing this way. So that's a lot of explanation. Don't worry, you can forget it all. We're going to start. But at least you know what you're chanting, right? I think it's helpful. It's also helpful to have your feet on the floor, feeling the energy coming up from the earth, through your legs, up your body. Maybe wiggle your toes a little bit so that you know that they're there. Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo.
Close your eyes and know that you are in a safe, loving place. If you wish, take your right hand to your belly and your left hand to your chest. Give yourself a moment to tune in and start to notice your breath. You may breathe through your nose or through your mouth. Visualize a silhouette of yourself filled with light. Visualize it sinking down into you, sitting down with you. You are re-entering yourself fully and feeling everything fully. Now make your breath a little bigger. Inhale, feel your belly rise. Feel the hand on your chest rise. Pause and exhale. Keep breathing naturally and let gravity do its work. Inhale, belly, ribs, chest, fill up. Breathe in big. Exhale, think surrender. Inhale, take a deep breath. Exhale, think release. A few more breaths. Inhale, exhale. Challenge yourself now to inhale a little bigger than you normally would. And exhale, let it go. As you breathe in, think let. As you breathe out, think go. Inhale, invite sensation into your body. Feel whatever you need to feel, big, and exhale. Give yourself permission to release as you breathe out. Now feel your heels on the ground. If you don't have your shoes on, you'll literally feel your heels on the ground. If you have your shoes on, or if something else connects you to the ground, let that be an extension of your body right now. Feel where you're making contact with the floor. Now feel your right heel and send your awareness into your right heel. Without moving it,
differently today. There's nothing, I think, that brings anyone more into present moment awareness is when they don't know what's going to happen. And so they have to be very careful that, like, they don't get called on or looked at or something. So I'm totally present right now, right? Would you say? Oh, what if I come back? Scanning the room. Hello, everybody. I think you're probably really in your bodies right now, which is great because that's what the entire talk is about today. I'm going to be talking about a book called The Presence Process, and the subtitle of it is A Journey into Present Moment Awareness. And what this little book is about is a lot of things, but I thought I would start with a couple of questions. How many people would like to improve themselves? Show of hands, anyone? Okay, like to improve themselves. Okay, that's good, that's good. How many people would like to feel better? Anybody? Okay, great, great. Then this book is probably not for you. And let me explain that. At least not initially for you, okay? Yeah, I think I'm just going to read the very first part of page 1 of the foreword. And it's actually a poem by Rumi, okay? And this will give you a little idea of what this book's about. Here we go. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and attend them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. She may be clearing you out for some new delight. That's how this book begins. The reason I asked you how many of you want to improve yourself and what the author Michael Brown says in the book, the first thing that we all have to realize is that your essential nature cannot be improved, right? Your essential nature is divine, your divinity. You cannot improve upon it. It is what it is. What the book explains is how to improve the quality of your experience in this life. There is nothing you have to change about yourself. Nothing at all. You are perfect in every way. However, the quality of your experience might not be great. You might wish other things to happen than what are happening to you. You might say every once in a while, why does the same thing keep happening to me over and over again? Has anybody ever said that? Of course not. All right. The other thing that I asked you is how many people want to feel better. And basically what he says in the book is that this book is not about helping you feel better. Well, that's kind of a bummer, isn't it? However, what it is about is helping you get better at feeling. Whew! And so, just to let you know that I am in the middle of doing this book. And how this book is laid out is that there's a bunch of reading that you do beforehand to kind of help you realize what the concepts are. And then you actually do something. So what you do is you do a meditation practice and breathing work that basically follows, it's like a workbook, basically. And I am on week 5 of the 10 weeks. So I'm not totally sure exactly what happens at the end. But I can tell you that the first 5 weeks have been a lot. So And basically, Michael Brown is a guy who he basically had a neurological disease, okay? And he did everything that he could to try to heal that disease. And he did all kinds of things. And throughout the process, nothing was working. He was very frustrated. And then he came upon the presence process, and that is what eventually allowed him to basically heal his neurological condition. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Myrtle Fillmore, right? Myrtle Fillmore had her condition, and then at some point she realized that she is divine. And then her journey was all about changing the quality of her experience to match who she was. And that's exactly what Michael Brown did, and that's where this book comes from. Serendipitously, a couple weeks ago, how many were here when Reverend Ginny was here? Okay. The very last thing she talked about 10 things that she hopes that people will stop right away. And one of them, it happens to be the last one, number 10, was stop blaming others for your problems. And what she mentioned in that was that before we're 7 years old, whatever happened to us emotionally is basically imprinted in our brain. And what happened then is now basically controlling everything that we do now unconsciously. So we don't realize that this is happening because I don't know how many of you had a bunch of memories before you were 7 years old. I have a few scattered ones, but I don't remember like every single thing that happened from the time I was born to the time I was 7. And yet what this book is saying, and what Michael Brown kind of discovered, and again, you can take this or leave this, right? I mean, I'm not saying that whatever he says in here is 100% accurate. But after doing it, I'm kind of seeing that he's right about a lot of things for sure. So whatever happened between those first 7 years, that's controlling our life now. So that's what he discovered. What he discovered was something that happened to him before he was 7 years old was causing his neurological condition. And the only way that he could heal himself of that is he actually had to feel the stuck feelings that were in his body. And it sounds pretty easy, but I tell you, it is not an easy thing to do. And so basically, when you enter the presence process, we're placing our attention on our emotional blockages. So I personally can't think of anything more difficult or challenging to do. And I can tell you from the first 5 weeks, it has been very challenging and difficult. And I'm not going to think about it too much because you don't want to see me bawling my eyes up here. But and what he talks about is the task of the presence process isn't to recover, because recovering is basically covering over the same stuff over and over again. Recover, right? It's to discover. So what we're trying to do is discover whatever these blockages are and feel them. And by feeling them completely, we integrate them. We don't get rid of them. They don't go away. We integrate them into ourselves, into our consciousness. And once they're integrated, the problems that they created go away. And what he's saying is what we do a lot in our lifetime, right, is we don't get to the cause of problems. We look at the effects and we try to fix the effects. And so, for example, and I thought this was a pretty good example. Let's hope that it is. How many of you remember Matthew Winston? He used to go here probably 10, 12 years ago or so. He was a singer in the choir. He did special music. He was a very good singer, and he split his time between Mount Zion Baptist Church and here because he liked to be in the gospel choir. Anyway, one of the people, I think either in the gospel choir or in the congregation, needed a kidney transplant. So after a lot of thoughtful consideration, Matthew Winston decided to donate a kidney, which was an amazing thing. And he actually donated it. The kidney was accepted by the person he donated it to. And the guy had a pretty good life for another few years. But what eventually happened was he developed kidney disease again. And this is partially what he talks about in this book. What we try to do to not feel our feelings that are difficult to feel is we do two things. We sedate them and we control them. We sedate them by any number of things, maybe alcohol, maybe drugs, maybe we go to a movie to forget about our problems, maybe we go for a run to forget about our problems, maybe whatever we can do to sedate it. Then the other thing is control. How do we control things? We maybe have surgery to get rid of the problem, but in this case, that's what this gentleman did for his kidney disease, but his kidney disease came back because it had nothing to do with the kidney. The kidney was not the cause of his problems. The cause of his problems, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, and I'm just projecting, right? But I think it was probably some kind of unfelt emotion that was causing it. And so even, I mean, you can replace all your body parts, and if you still have those issues, any disease is going to come back. Does that kind of make sense? And that's what he's saying in the book. Now, is that totally true for everything? I have no idea. I'm just telling you what the book says, and I'm working on the process, and I think we'll see what happens. But anyway, so that's what he's talking about. And what he talks about in the book is you have different cycles of development, right? And so we talked about the first 7 years. So the first 7 years is your basically emotional development, right? Because the first 7 years of your life, you don't really have the mental capacity to think a whole lot. You don't have much as a physical being, you're not really able to do that much. So the first 7 years are emotional, he says. The second are mental. So that's when you usually start school, right? You start it's probably second grade by the time you're 7, but that's when you really start learning things and developing your mental capacities. And then that goes on until you're 14. When you're 14, that's about puberty time, and then you start developing your physical body, and so physical kind of takes over. And then by the time you're 21, right, you're an adult, right? You say you're an adult. And so what he says in the book is that that's pretty much what happens, and so if you've never felt those feelings from the first 7 years of your life, you haven't emotionally grown up. So most people are stuck at 7 years old emotionally, right? Mentally, we have learned a whole bunch of stuff. Physically, we're active, we're strong, we can do all this stuff, but emotionally, we could be stuck at 7 years old. And so that's what the presence process is all about, to help us grow up emotionally. That's what the book's about. And what he says is once you get to the cause, right? So if the cause are these stuck emotions in your body, then once that change happens, it affects your entirety, right? So the integration will affect your entire body. Not only that, I would guess it affects your entire life. I'd probably also say it could possibly affect your entire life, going back in time, going forward in time. Ancestrally, it might do that too. I'm not really sure, but I'm just kind of guessing that that's also a thing. Because what happens through generations, right? Our DNA is changed, right? Or we inherit certain things. And possibly we're inheriting our parents' unfelt emotions. And by processing them, we're healing the whole line, right? So anyway, it's a very difficult book to do. So here's the thing. I would not recommend this book to everyone. In fact, I would really recommend it to nobody because it's the most challenging thing you'll probably ever do. But, I mean, and like I said, I'm only halfway through it. And what the interesting thing is I'm in week 5. And he says that week 5 is about the time people stop doing it because they can't take it anymore. It's too much. And I would agree that that's probably the case. But I'm going to keep plugging away. Anyway, so that kind of gives you an idea of the concepts of the book. So what he says is the first consequence of a charged emotion stuck in your body is drama. That's the first thing. Drama. Drama. D-R-A-M-A. Drama. And then from that drama, that's where the sedation and control comes from, because we can't handle the drama, so we have to do something to get away from it. We have to do something to relieve ourselves of the drama. And just kind of, I mean, so he basically says right in the book, the presence process reveals experientially, and this is all about experience. I haven't even talked about that part yet. That the first emotionally driven 7-year cycle of childhood is the cause of our uncomfortable experiences. And that's any uncomfortable experience. That's not necessarily in your body. That's mentally, that's emotionally, whatever, right? In fact, also in the book, what he says is that, does anybody have any difficult people in their life? Anybody? Difficult people. But difficult people are messengers to tell you that you have stuck energy somewhere. And once you unstuck the energy, the messengers either don't bother you anymore or they go away. That's part of the book too. And that we're basically taking our emotional charges that are stuck in our body and we're projecting it out. So those emotional charges, people are going to show up to push our buttons. That's what they're there for. And it's not there to drive us crazy. It's there to help us to see that there is a problem. So that's why he calls them messengers and not like evil people or anything like that. They're pointing to you like, you have a charged emotion stuck in you. Ooh, yikes. It's crazy. So everything that happens on the outside, as we know, is because of what's happening on the inside. And that's exactly what he's talking about. He also says that so the whole part of the presence process is to be in presence. And we got a little taste of that in the meditation. I'm going to actually take you through just a very short couple minutes of what the actual meditation in this book is later. Because I wouldn't want you to have to sit through the whole thing, because I'll explain that later anyway. He says, presence knows no order of difficulty. So anyway, there's no charged emotion that's any harder for presence to integrate than any other. So you might have just a little irritation. You could have a whole big horrible trauma that happened to you before you were 7. It doesn't matter. The order of difficulty is not important. I mean, it doesn't matter. Presence can basically integrate any of it. And presence has our best interests at heart. And if you want to call presence God, if you want to call presence spirit, if you want to call presence all that is, that's what he's talking about with presence. And the presence within each one of us is the same presence that's within all life. Okay? He also says that a lot of times people try to talk themselves out of doing the presence process mentally. Because, number one, doing the presence process doesn't feel good mostly. It's, I wonder if I had something bookmarked here, and I don't even sure what I remember what it was, but it might help me out here with what he's talking about. Yeah, so basically, let me just read this, because this is going to kind of wrap it up a little bit before we get into the actual what is the presence process. Don't kill the messenger, receive the message. The messengers are the people and the situations that upset us, seem to thwart and diminish us. The messages are the unintegrated, not yet resolved emotional memories and wounds from early childhood that are being played out through these current adult experiences. Like neglected children, they're not going to leave us alone, but continue to outpicture in our daily life as the individuals, events, and circumstances that cause us pain and discomfort. Often they express through one of three core emotions: anger, fear, or sadness and grief. Our usual habitual response is either mental or physical. We try to figure it out with our mind, to distract ourselves with physical activity and avoidance. We may eat, run, overachieve, or simply get into our head to avoid engaging. Yet the scared, wounded kid place in us continues to suffer, desperately wanting and needing attention and acceptance. To approach these wounds, often our oldest and most tender, requires a method that is both safe and effective, and that is what the presence process is. And when he talks about thinking, he also mentioned something like we can't think out. Has anyone ever said, let's think outside the box? Everybody heard that? Think outside the box. But what he's saying is thinking is the box. So there you go. How do you do that? Anyway, the presence process is actually a two-part thing. I mean, it sounds really easy. You breathe, you do conscious, connected breathing. That's the first part of it. And the second part of it is you have a conscious response, is what he calls it, which is kind of like a mantra, and it goes weekly. So every week you have a conscious response, and every day you do 15-minute meditation in the morning and 15-minute meditation at night. And he says, first of all, your mind's not going to want you to do these. Your mind's going to talk you out of doing them. You're going to think nothing's going to happen. There's a whole bunch of things that will come up to help you avoid doing your 15-minute meditation in the morning and at night. But if you actually do them, that's when you start to feel a bunch of stuff. And the feeling will be uncomfortable. And so your mind will say, this doesn't feel good. I don't want to do this anymore. And yet he says, keep doing it, because that is what's going to move you through the feelings and actually integrate, so that all of the things that keep coming up in your life that you're not happy with and you don't like, and the crazy people that show up, will basically not be there anymore, because you will be in the present moment. So the breathing practice is the first part. And he says, present moment awareness is a byproduct of breathing without pausing. So animals don't pause when they breathe. They breathe in and out, and in and out, and in and out. There's no pause. If you've ever noticed, I noticed this after I started doing this, that at night when you're sleeping, you don't have pauses in your breath. You breathe in, you breathe out. You breathe in, you breathe out. When our mind is activated thinking about the past or the future or a trauma or whatever, we stop breathing. We'll stop on the out-breath or the in-breath. So we'll be like, and then, no breathing. I'm not breathing. I'm thinking. I'm whatever. So he's saying to breathe in and out without pausing puts you in present moment awareness. So we're going to actually try that. Not yet, though. And then there's conscious responses. The conscious responses are different every week. The first week's conscious response is, this moment matters. It's a very simple, easy to digest, right? Doesn't feel too emotionally charged to say this moment matters. But then week 2 comes along and says, I recognize my reflections and projections. Woo! Say that over and over for a few weeks, for a few days, and see all the stuff it brings up. Week 3 is I choose to respond. And what he means by that is mostly everyone in the world is reacting. Something happens, we do the same thing that we've always done when that thing happens. And responding is like looking at what's happening and choosing to do something different than you always do. And that's what the response is. So week 3 is I choose to respond. Week 4 is I feel unconditionally, which means I just feel. I don't judge it. I don't try to, one of the things that he talks about in doing the presence process is you might go into the presence process thinking, I want to heal this thing, so I'm going to do the presence process. And that's my goal. And he's saying that's not being unconditional, right? It's being conditional. If you're unconditional about it, the healing will happen naturally, and you don't have to think about it or try to make it happen because you're divine, right? Presence, presence is always there, right? And the presence process helps you tune in to what you already are rather than trying to fix something or change something or whatever. So week 5 is what I'm in right now, and it is week 5's conscious response is, I am innocent. Whew. I am innocent. And he talks all about this is where you meet your child self. This is where you, in meditation, you are probably going to finally start to see where some of this stuff is. And he says, some people have had really horrible trauma, right, before they're 7. But all of us have had trauma before we're 7. Why? Because we incarnated. And he's saying just incarnating is hard. And we are also, made to be civilized and in society. So we were unlimited beings, came into a body, and now we're told we can't be unlimited anymore. We have to do what everybody wants us to do. We have to play this game this way. If you don't do this, this is going to happen, all this stuff. And even if you haven't had what most people would call traumatic experiences, that's a traumatic experience. And we've all had it. Because, we all were unlimited at one point, and then we became limited. And we don't remember those things because our mental capacities weren't developed yet. So that's what we're getting at in week 5. I am innocent. What are the other weeks? I have no idea because I haven't been there yet, and I wasn't going to read ahead. But that kind of gives you an idea of what the presence process is about. So what I'd like us to do right now is I would like us to actually practice connected breathing. And the other part of the process is when you're doing the connected breathing every day for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at night, you say, it's basically like a mantra, but it's another conscious response. And it is, I am here now in this. You breathe in, I. You breathe out, am. You breathe in, here. You breathe out, now. You breathe in, and you breathe out, this. And what he says is you should either breathe all in and out through your nose or all in and out through your mouth. And I find that I have to do both because when stuff comes up and you're gushing like crazy out of your eyeballs and your snot's running down your nose, you can't really breathe out of your nose anymore. It has to be out of the mouth. And yes, this has happened many, many times doing this process. But we're getting better at feeling, right? We're told not to feel when we're little kids. We're like, suck it up. Don't feel that. And this is all about doing that. So either one, like only through the nose, only through the mouth. You can alternate, but don't ever, but he says like it breaks up something in the process when you're breathing in like through your nose and then out through the mouth, or in through the mouth and out through the nose. Okay? So we're going to try it if you're open to it. And basically, we're just breathing in, we're breathing out, and we're not stopping. So it's just in, out, in, out. I just want to try this for just 1 minute to give you an idea of what it's like to do this for possibly 15 minutes and for a half hour a day. So I invite you to put your feet on the floor. invite you to close your eyes. We're going to breathe through our nose. We're going to breathe in I, out, am, here, in, now, out, in, this. And you don't say it out loud, you just think it. So I am here, now, in, this. I am here, now, in this. I am here, now, in this. Just keep going. The only thing you have to worry about is not stopping in between. In, out. If you forget the mantra, that's okay. You just keep breathing in and out. If you need it again, it's I am here, now, in this. Another thing that he mentions is you're kind of forcing the breath in with a little gusto, and you're allowing the out breath to just kind of fall. But you need the in-breath for momentum to keep it going. Let's just do it one more time. I am here, now, in this. So, the other thing that he mentions, yes, and you can stop whenever you, or you can just keep doing it, or you can just do this all the time. All right? I don't think it's going to be any problem to be in present moment awareness at all times. But the other thing that he really mentions is to do this privately, right? That's why I didn't want to make this go too long. Because you need to find, when you do this, a safe space where you can be alone, where you can have no distractions, if possible. I would recommend having a big box of tissue, facial tissue by you. And probably because, at least in the beginning, they recommend that you have some kind of a timer so you know exactly how long you're doing this. And it's very easy to cut the meditation short. It's very easy to go along for the first 10 minutes of it and be like, nothing's happening. I will tell you from my own personal experience, the last 3 minutes are usually the worst, best, whatever you want to call them, the most emotional, when the most stuff happens, when the most stuff comes up, is usually at the end. So that's basically the presence process. And again, this purple book, Presence Process, A Journey into Present Moment Awareness. I would like to say I recommend it to all of you, but I don't know that I do. If you're really, really brave and you think you're ready to do this, then I would say go for it. If not, let it go for a while. It may come back to you. I don't know, but I would say it's probably the hardest thing that I've done, maybe ever, but certainly in a long time. And I am grateful for it, but it is very difficult and challenging. So that's the presence process. I hope you got a little something out of this, and thank you very much.